I wake to the sound that matters more than anything I own. A dry rasp from the intake blower. It is not loud. It is a change. The filter cartridges were fresh 9 months ago. I keep a log on a clipboard by the ladder. I run my hand across the pre-filter screen and it comes away gray. The OLED shows static pressure creeping higher with every hour. Airflow dips, then steadies. I mute the warning and watch the numbers for a full minute. The system recovers, but I know what it means. I mark the time, the date, and the smell. Dust with a hint of ozone from an overworked motor. 5 years inside this concrete tube and problems announce themselves in small, practical ways first. This is a small, practical alarm with large teeth behind it. I switch the intake to bypass and let the secondary line carry the load. The secondary is older and dirtier. The airflow graph dips again. I pace the length of the main gallery and count steps without thinking. Hydroponic channels hum. The lettuce under the LEDs looks tired at the edges. The tomatoes do fine because I kept the nutrient schedule tight. The rabbit hutch is clean because I have time and bleach. The battery bank is at 78% after a cloudy stretch. I make coffee from the roast I saved for decisions. It tastes like a plan being weighed. I never built this place for the dead. I built it for a siren that never came. The walls are poured and rebarred and dry. The doors weigh as much as a small car. I can sit on the floor in the generator room and count the screws in the acoustic baffles because I installed every one. The air system is the only part I did not fabricate alone. The vendor out of Idaho cut the housings on a laser table and sent me the first pallet 3 months before the first broadcast used the word reanimation. I paid extra for 2 blowers, extra for carbon, extra for maintenance space. I did not order enough intake cartridges because a salesman told me the lifespan figures assumed wildfire smoke. For 5 years, I stretched pads, vacuumed frames, washed screens, and packed my own carbon. The skid with the last of the factory cartridges ended 2 winters back. Today, the math ran out. I lay the map on the workbench and flatten it with 2 jars of screws. Rural Montana is wide even on paper. The closest thing that still holds what I need is the water treatment building by the river. Carbon, bag filters, UV tubes. There is also the high school gym with rooftop air handlers if the roof has not collapsed. A feed mill 4 miles past that will have dust collection filters. The old clinic had compact HEPA units in triage rooms. I draw a route in pencil, not marker. I work downhill where possible, stay in the folds, and avoid the highway where the asphalt holds heat and draws the sleepers in spring. I trade sometimes, not face to face. I leave a sealed pail at the old livestock scale with chalk marks on the concrete. A drifter once paid with a jar of good salt and a hand drill. A woman left a bundle of clean gauze and took 2 quarts of beans. I do not bring strangers home. I do not let anyone see me leave the river bottom. 3 years ago, a pair of scavengers followed at dusk and tried the tool shed door. I waited in the hay swale until the moon went behind a cloud and pushed them off with noise and a flare from the dry creek. No one came back for a second look. I learned that a bright light still means more than a locked door. I pack light. Old frame pack. 2 empty cloth bags for filters. 4 small carbon canisters I can refill if I find bulk. Wire cutters, a small pry bar, a stubby screwdriver set, a box cutter with new blades. I take the folding bike I use for inside trips and clamp it into a 1-wheel trailer I built from a dolly and leaf spring. The hitch is quiet and swings. I carry water, jerky, a roll of survey tape, and a wind meter that cost me too much, but saved me once when a brush burn went sideways. I check the rifle's sling and leave the long barrel. Today is not for loud decisions. The hatch opens into a day that has not made up its mind. Low clouds. The sage still holds last night's damp. The wind is from the northwest and steady enough to carry sound where I do not want it. I check the line of dust stuck to the bird screen on the standpipe. The plume shows a low pressure drift toward the south gully. I tape a square of cloth to the pipe to watch it move and memorize the motion. This is not a day for the road. This is a day for brush, cuts on pants, and slow circles. I close the hatch and brush out my steps with a willow branch I keep under the stones. I roll the bike in the wheel ruts of mule deer until we drop into the shallow draw that takes rain toward the river. Fences sag. A gate I fixed with 2 bolts and a hinge sits where I left it. The wetlands that used to exist here before the pivot rigs dried them are back in a patchy way. Willows took the low spots. Cottonwoods hold the bend. On a good day, I hear only wind, a hawk, and the quiet tick of cooling metal on old trucks that will never run again. Today, I hear a clink of chain far off and count to 20. Another clink. Not wind, not a cow. Someone uses chain for something. I park the bike in a clump of rabbit brush and walk the last 100 yards. The water plant sits low by the river with a fence sunk into concrete footers. The gate is open because someone cut it a year ago and never bothered to close it. I never use gates that someone else opened. I go under the corner where the flood ate away the base. The crawl drags dust into my collar and smells of fish. Inside the fence line, the grass is waist high and holds yesterday's rain. The door into the chemical room is steel and unlocked. The handle has fresh tape on it for grip. That is new. I do not step through a door I cannot see in one glance. I kneel and look along the floor for shoe grit in the paint. There is a line of fresh dirt that ends by the panel with the pH meters. The glass is broken on one gauge that was not broken last spring. Someone uses this place. I slide sideways and keep my shoulder to the jamb. The light inside comes from a skylight the hail cracked 3 winters ago. It is enough. The carbon bins sit along the back wall, gray drums with threaded lids. 2 are open, 1 is sealed. I try the sealed one first and the lid gives after a fight. The pellets are clean and dry. I scoop a handful and watch for movement. Nothing stirs. I fill 2 canisters with a funnel. It sounds like slow rain. The noise is too much. I stop twice when my ears tell me I am not alone. I hear nothing but the small scrape of a rat under a pallet. The bag filters are stacked under a plastic sheet. Standard sizes. I pull 4 and slide them into the cloth sacks. I find UV bulbs in a long carton hidden behind a broken rolling chair. The glass sleeves are intact. I line the box with a towel and brace it in the trailer. I keep my hands steady not because of nerves, but because I do not want to repeat this trip tomorrow for a broken tube. On my way out, I notice the chain clinks again. Closer now. I kill all light, even my watch face. The sound is regular and stops for long breaths. It is not random. I move to the chemical tank pit and climb the ladder to get a view through the skylight. The angle shows the river bend and the old access road. What I see first is wrong in a way that has nothing to do with the dead. A group walks the road. The infected move in a loose line with the aimless drift that sameness gives creatures with one job left to do. Inside that slow line are 3 people dressed in rain gear, hoods up, faces covered. The hoods are gray with dust and something darker at the hems. The 3 do not push the infected. They flow with them. A man carries a pole with a loop of chain at the end. It taps a bolt on the pole every 3rd step. The sound is the metronome that keeps pace. A woman holds a metal wind chime on a short line and dampens it with her glove when a stray tone rings too long. The 3rd, a boy not yet grown, watches the edges and shifts position when the group drifts toward a fence. He does not look like prey. He looks like someone counting doors. They are not the first to walk among the infected. I saw a fool try it in year 2 with a blanket over his head. It ended the way it sounds. These 3 are not fools. They smell managed. They move with the same economy the sleepers do. The boy wears strips of cloth that flutter as he moves and keep air currents moving around his shape. The woman has bells sewn into her cuffs, but wrapped in gauze so the sound is there only when she wants it. They are shepherds with a dangerous flock. I do not know where they learned this, or how long it took to stop being a dare and start being doctrine. I do know I will not pass the road while they work it. I wait until the group is past the bend and the chime fades. I move out under the fence corner again and keep the riverbank between us. The water is low, and the mud keeps my steps soft. I do not like mud because it writes my path, but the river erases as fast as I walk. I hold below willow height and use a culvert to cross under the road. On the far side, I find a mark in chalk on a concrete footing. 3 short lines under a long line, then a circle. I have not seen this mark before. It is fresh and clean. I copy it in my notebook and leave it on the page with the words, "Road kept by quiet ones." The high school sits on a little rise and looks across a football field that a herd tore up in year 3. The bleachers fell. The roof over the gym is still there from what I can see. I do not like roofs that look fine from the ground. I circle to the back, where the service door and the air handler cages are. The lock is cut. The cages are open. The biggest unit has a filter slot big enough for my whole arm. I pull 2 4-inch filters that still have a little life. The date written in marker says year 2. Good enough as pre-filters. I load them and stop when I smell something clean that does not belong. Fresh soap, not factory soap. Lye soap cut too harsh. Someone bathed here. The drain pipe that runs down the wall is dry. The smell is in the air, not the water. I fade into the equipment shadow and wait. I listen for the sound of a door closing that was not mine. The minutes become a count of my own poor patience. I should leave. I do not. This is a place where I could get one more thing. In the nurse's office, there was a compact HEPA unit my mother once used when flu went around. I tell myself it will be in a closet under a pile of science project posters. I move inside. The hallway smells like the inside of a locker room long after use. The trophy case is busted. The floor crunches. I step on the edges of tiles to avoid the center where the glue has let go. The nurse's office door is open. The cot is pulled out. There is a basin on the counter and a bar of the lye soap in a dish. A small mirror leans against a pile of bandages. The HEPA unit is on the floor by the back cabinet with a note taped to it. The note reads, "Leave 1, take 1, no talking." There's a stack of pre-filter pads someone cut to fit. I leave 2 of mine and take the HEPA. It is heavier than it looks. I slide it into the trailer and wrap it with a blanket. I do not leave the way I came. I move through the cafeteria kitchen and out the delivery dock. I take a last look at the gym floor through a cracked door window and see the chalk mark again, larger this time, laid down on the hardwood. 3 short lines under a long line and a circle to the right. The circle has a slash through it and a small arrow. The direction points toward the river bend where the quiet ones kept the road. The chalk circle on the gym floor is not for me. It is a map for those who read it. I close the door until the latch catches without a click and leave. The wind shifts. The odor profile changes. The air gets cleaner for a moment and then warmer as the clouds thin and the field bakes. Warm air lifts sound. I cut down slope and use the draw that leads past the feed mill. The big cyclone dust collectors stick above the roof like giant funnels. I want the fabric bags inside. The ladder is metal and squeals under a foot that is not careful. I take a tie and lash the ladder to the frame to kill the play. I climb slow and keep my weight tight to the rungs. At the top, I loosen the service door. Inside the collector, the bags hang limp. 2 are threadbare. 10 look usable. I unclip 4 and fold them. The dust that falls is brown and sharp and gets everywhere. I step out and see movement on the road. The same group moves past again, but now the flock is larger by 10. The boy carries something new, a strip of fabric on a stick that he holds downwind and reads. He is measuring scent on the air. The woman with the bells watches the side of the mill and tilts her head. Her hood shifts and I see her mouth. It is set in a line that says alert, not panic. She looks once across the open space and then back to the infected. Her hand dips to the chime and stops a ring before it begins. She puts a finger to her mouth and looks not at the flock, but at the mill. The man with the chain lifts it and lets it fall once, twice, 3 times. The infected pause in that way they do when a new noise tags the simple program in their heads. The group eases the flock forward and away from the mill. My back is against the ladder without me deciding it. I do not move until they are past and the wind swings back to a clean angle. I take the long way home. The weight in the trailer is worth the climb. I keep to the cattle trail in the low ground and mark my passing with small changes I can read later. A rock turned, a bit of twine tied low, a branch nudged out of the way. In the shallow wash by the cottonwoods, I find boot prints that are not mine. Small feet. The stride is careful. The heel comes down before the toe every time. The person who made them walks with deliberation. I stand in the water until ripples stop and watch the line of prints. They angle toward the place where the old livestock scale sits. I left nothing there this week. The last time I left salt and matches and got a spool of solder in return. Near the scale, I see 2 people sitting with their backs to the concrete. One is the boy from the road. The other is a woman I have not seen who wears a coat too big for her with the sleeves rolled. They are not with the flock now. They are alone and they are not hiding. The boy looks at my hands first, not my face. The woman keeps her hands open and away from her coat. She does not stand. The boy speaks with a voice that is not loud or soft. "We trade here," he says. "We do not follow." He nods at the pail. There is a chalk mark on it I did not write. 3 short lines, a long line, a circle. "Road kept, water kept, river safe," he says. "We leave one, take one, no talking." I do not step close. I do not give a name. I place a small roll of pre-filter on the concrete and step back. The woman slides a jar of white crystals toward me. The jar is clean, real salt, not the gray mix I sometimes make. The boy sets a foil packet on the pail lid and taps it. Antibiotics. I do not take it. Medicine is a leash. He nods like he knows the thought and slides the packet back to his pocket. The woman says, "Your air smells tired." Her words are soft and careful, spoken through cloth. She points toward the north with her chin. "Dust picked up last week. We make our own." She taps the jar of salt with a fingernail. "Boil and scrape and bake. Bad batch 2 weeks back. Burns the tongue. This one is right." She leans her head. "You fix your air, neighbor." "Working on it," I say. The words feel like sharp tools left out where someone can use them. The boy studies my trailer. He does not touch it. He reads the scuffs on the metal, the knot I used on the ropes, the way I wrapped the UV box. He sees the mill dust on my sleeves and the gym chalk on my knee and the carbon on my palm. He files it all away without moving his head much at all He knows the route I took. He knows the way home is the way I will take unless I am willing to walk twice as far to throw him off. He meets my eyes once and then looks at the river, as if nothing here is important. The woman lifts her hand and shows a small circle of wire. 3 short scratches are etched in it under a long scratch and a small punched hole. If the road is closed, we hang this on the fence by the mill, she says. If the river is sour, we make 2 circles. She lowers her hand. We do not steal, we do not follow, we do not invite, we do not ask names. She looks at the boy. We read wind and dust. We use the dead to pass and to fence. It is a poor life, but it is life. She points at my pre-filter roll. You keep your air, we will keep the road. If you make noise at night, we will bring your noise a blanket. She stands, but slowly, the way one stands near an animal that startles. Be clean. The sleepers smell fear and soap and heat and meat. We smell like dust and cold iron in the river. That is how we walk. They leave without turning their backs. They do not step on my footprints. They step where the deer stepped. When they are gone, I sit on the concrete and look at the chalk marks until the lines stop meaning one thing and start meaning several. 3 short lines under a long line. River safe, road safe, wind safe. I do not know their rules, but I see the edges. They move inside the infected like swimmers in a slow current. They can cross open ground a farmer cannot. They can watch with a shield I cannot use without new habits I am not sure I can learn. I change my route home twice. I walk on the broad backs of rocks. I brush out the few places where the soil is soft. I add 30 minutes to a trip that should be 10 because it is the right price. Near the ridge that hides my place, I stop and listen. The wind is wrong. The world smells warmer and fouler than it should. I crawl to the lip and look down into my basin. The standpipe that vents my system is upright, painted the color of lichen, and banded to look like fence post. Today, it has company. A cluster of infected stands near it, heads tilted. They do not find it by sight. They find it by the small stream of air that feels like something alive. The cluster sways. On the far side of them, under the line of cottonwoods, I see a figure in gray that could be a stump until it moves its hand. A second gray shape kneels by a pile of brush that hides footprints in dust. The quiet ones came to study the pipe. I do not think they know what it is. I do think they understand what it means. Someone breathes here. I back away and work the far fence line where the beaver cut the willows. There is a cattle guard the county put in and forgot. I have a hand-crank siren in the shed for days like this. I do not bring it. I do not want the sound in this valley. Instead, I take the radio I use to test the antenna and set it in the old root cellar a quarter mile to the east. I recorded a generator hum last year by holding the mic to a panel. I set the small speaker behind a board and turn the volume up until the sound is a dull, mechanical murmur that carries in the still air. I open a can of fish and leave it near the cellar door. I pour a line of bleach across the path that runs toward my real door because the infected shy at that sharp scent, even if they do not know why. I take the long handle of a shovel and drag it in a wide arc to draw eyes. It takes 15 minutes for the first sleeper to peel off the cluster and move toward the false sound. The others follow in the slow, undecided way that makes them dangerous in numbers and stupid alone. The quiet ones do not move at first. Then one stands, considers the pipe, and follows the herd. The gray coats drift toward the cellar. One hangs back under the cottonwoods, hidden well but not invisible. I watch the watcher. The watcher watches the herd. The pipe is empty now. I run for it. The standpipe cap is a screw top. I built a tool to spin it fast. I twist and lay the cap in the grass. The intake hiss grows loud in a way that pulls at hair on skin, whether one likes it or not. I slide the new pre-filter in, then the bag filter, then the carbon canister. My fingers know the latches. I seat the gasket with a thumb and feel the seal. I close the cap and spin it tight. The whole thing takes 58 seconds because I timed it in the shop for this day. I touch the pipe and feel the vibrations settle into a lower, healthier tone. The watcher under the trees moves, and I freeze with my head low. He is small, not the boy and not the woman. A man with a thin frame and careful feet. He stands with his hands out from his sides as if to show he holds nothing. He looks at the pipe and then at the cellar where the sound comes from. He reads the valley. He is good at it. He points to the east. His partner, still gray and still, nods and moves that way. The herd drifts toward the cellar and the radio hum. I wait until the watchers are gone and the sleepers have their backs to me. I slide into the grass and do not stand again until I am in the shadow of my own hatch. Underground. The air tastes new. The graph on the wall smooths. The motor tone loses its grit. I wash my hands 3 times to kill every trace of the outside that I can reach. I strip in the airlock and hang the clothes where the UV lights can cook them. I swap the intake path back to primary. The secondary blower's bearing sings a rising note that tells me it wants grease I am saving for winter. I sit at the bench and set the bag filters in a line and write dates on them. I fill the 2 small carbon canisters I did not fill at the plant and cap them. I pack the HEPA unit with the new pad and set it to run in the sleeping room to polish the air. I log the day. I list places found and places to avoid. I draw the chalk mark and write what I think it means and what else it could mean if I am wrong. I draw a small map of the valley and shade the places where sound carries far and the places where the river eats footprints. I make a list for the next surface day. Grease, more carbon, wire screen for a new standpipe cap, a deeper trench to drop the exhaust line farther from the place where cows used to lick the salt block, because the sleepers pick up habits from dumb animals if those habits put them near smells that interest them. I do not celebrate. I put the coffee grounds in the compost and scrape the kettle clean. I cut dead leaves from the lettuce and feed them to the rabbits. I check the charge controller 3 times even though the sun is gone. I tighten the latch on the door to the storage tunnel that sometimes shifts with frost heave. I move the bedroll away from the wall because concrete gives back the day's cold all night if you let it. I walk the ring again and touch each valve and each gauge in the same order because that order keeps me honest. The new threat is not the dead. The new threat is the living person who reads wind and dust and smell and sound, as well as I read a pressure gauge. The new threat walks with the infected, not against them. He uses the herd to move, to cover, to fence, to wait. He might not want my food or my water. He might want the safety I bought with years of quiet. He might not intend harm. He might bring it by habit. I mark that truth as clear as any measurement. A person who is comfortable in a crowd of sleepers can make harm without lifting a hand. I adjust my rules before sleep. I will bury the standpipe extension deeper and break the scent where it vents. I will screen the cap and baffle the flow so it leaves in several places, not one. I will build a false pipe where a man who reads signs will expect real air and let it breathe once a week on a timer so that the chalk map those quiet ones draw in their heads gets 1 extra line and maybe it points away. I will move my trade pail 2 miles west and leave a new mark that means I hear you without giving away where I stand at night. I will hang one of those wire circles they use on a fence I do not use and see who changes course. I think about the boy who measured the wind with cloth on a stick. Someone taught him. Someone tested it in a place where the wrong guess cost more than a bruise. That boy will grow old if the world lets him. He will build a safer version of his small system. He will be the man who closes a road quietly and opens a pasture with a chime. He will be the person my mother would have trusted to get across a city without trampling the scared. I do not need him near my door. I do not need him as an enemy either. I need to exist in a place adjacent to whatever he builds. I count the jars, the bags, the powder packets, the batteries, the paper, the nails. I mark the half-empty bucket of screws with a red stripe. I set aside 3 for the day I have to fix the hinge on the hatch. I make a note to strip the motor bearings and clean them now that the air is clean. I heat water, wash the metal cup with careful hands, and lay out tomorrow's small jobs. In 5 years, the habit of small jobs built a life that persists without applause. When I finally lie down, the air feels even and simple. The sound of the blower slips into the background where it belongs. I let the day unwind in a list of steps I took and steps I should have taken. I do not ask for safety. I count the ways to make it. The world on the surface is not empty, and it is not only a field of open mouths. It is a puzzle built by quiet people with good instincts. I will carry that truth into every trip. The bunker still works. The food still grows. The lights still burn. The plan grows with the threat, and the threat now has a human face that prefers not to be seen. In the morning, I will cut sheet metal and start a larger pre-filter box that snaps to the intake so the bag filters breathe easier and the motor keeps its bearings. I will repack carbon until the dust makes the concrete dark and my hands clean it off again. I will file the chalk mark into the edge of the workbench so I do not forget what it looks like. I will add one more habit to my list. Listen for chain on pole and gauzed bells, and if I hear it, hold still and do not become the thing that interrupts their flock. A bad neighbor teaches bad neighbors. A calm one gives calm back. In 5 years, I learned that life runs on rules that fit the shape of the place. The place changed, so I change the rules and keep breathing. Before sleep takes the edges off the day, I think of my mother in a kitchen that no longer exists in a town that no longer matters. She taught me to fix what I can and leave what I cannot for later, not forever. I fixed the air. I left the boy and his quiet people and their chalk lines for later. Later will come fast in a world that moves at the speed of hunger. I have parts, a plan, a door that still shuts, and a valley that still hides what it must. For now, that is enough. Tomorrow can be handled at the speed of a careful hand on a latch. I close my eyes, not to forget the surface, but to hold the map of it in my head, while the air turns over, and the rabbits shift in clean straw, and the tomatoes draw water in a reliable rhythm under a light that does not depend on weather or luck. 5 years after the world changed, the work did not. Breathe, fix, listen, adjust, survive.